Hello, all you beautiful souls. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Operation Tango Romeo, the trauma recovery podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. Very pleased today to have Silvia Pecota join me. Been chasing her for a while, and I finally caught her. Silvia, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
So you've been in the art world probably your whole life, I'm guessing?
Yeah. I would say I took an interest in art from the time I could pick up a pencil. Basically, I was always, fascinated from drawing to eventually photography, and then it kind of came full circle. And now I'm going back to the actual painting mediums.
Well, you first got on my radar because of the Support Our Troops license plate. And
Oh, yeah.
if I have the story correctly, that was the brainchild of a friend of mine who was bugging the Chad Griffiths, I think is the name of the politician. And then somehow the motor vehicles reached out to you, and then here we are. And on two of our vehicles, we have that license plate, the Support Our Troops license plate. Then, of course, on mine, it's the Veterans license plate, which would also be well served by your art, I think. I think that would be better than the plain plate that it is.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm always open to providing my artwork.
Well, see what we can do. So you didn't start out with veteran themed art. You started, you got the idea within sports. Tell me about how you got into artwork with professional athletes.
Um, well, um, I'm being of Italian origin and lucky enough to have traveled to Italy basically my whole childhood as my mother was working for the airlines. So I was exposed to the traditional classical form of artwork. I never did connect with modern, non-objective Picasso compositions or anything like that. I was always inspired by classical antiquity. And if you think of the classical Greek sculptures, like from their Greek gods, they're beautifully formed. Like they basically measured beauty. You've got like the discus thrower, and that was the inspiration for Italian Renaissance. So, in Renaissance meaning rebirth, and it was a rebirth of classical antiquity. So, beauty now became the focus, and having gone to Italy and you're surrounded by art, I would be exposed to these beautiful, sculptures, paintings, nudes that really personify strength and heroism and the heroic figure. And being female, I guess the male figure was beautiful. Beautiful to try to capture. So I actually started off when I was still at Ryerson, studying photography. I started off doing Sunshine Boys, and then that eventually, my skill as a photographer in lighting, led to, athletes. So and I focused actually, I had an opportunity to go to a boxing gym, Cabbagetown Boxing Gym. So then all these beautiful boxers, which are basically bare chested and very muscular and really personified the warrior inside the ring. And that that in itself is an inspiration, the courage, the strength. So it's the symbolism. From there, I got into the NHL, doing portraits for the Toronto Sun and affiliated Sun papers. And that's how I got to, and then it was the Argos because I'm based in Toronto, and the Blue Jays. So yeah, so I was attracted to the subject matter of the athlete, and I was always interested in military. In fact, I also had in fact, I remember in high school I wanted to what's it called? Enlist. So, with my little kilt, because I went to an all-girls school, St. Joseph. I remember walking into the recruiting center, and the I don't know, this big sergeant guy with a mustache was recruiting a young guy, and I didn't have the courage to talk to him, but I did a few days later call, and I go, excuse me, I'd like to know if there's any opportunities in in the field of the art, like in the military. And he goes, "No, ma'am, we only got the art of war." Okay, thank you. I know. Oh no, I thought I was going into that. Yeah, no, ma'am, we only got the art of war. I just remembered that.
Which is unfortunate because if that was a better recruiter, because that's not true. There are military photographers. It's a trade.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, anyway, that just like I was like really shy. So that, but it's always, but still, like the warrior is what was my let's say the inspiration for a lot of my photography, for the for the visual format. And I mean, I had friends who had this thing for musicians, and others like with acting in Hollywood. And but I just followed what I felt was inspiring, and so I went into the into that field. And really, if you think about it, sports, I mean, here's the other thing. It's not, I never really was fascinated with Hollywood and actors because they're acting, right? When you
They're
have that
pretending. Yeah.
boxer, yeah. So when you have that boxer going in the ring, that's really raw. Like that's like you've now personified strength. And the same thing with the soldier. And that all happened with Afghanistan, right? And so I thought, oh, let me go to the editor and see if I can get it was supposed to be one spread. Like, oh, I'll do a spread on our soldiers. And then I went to the editor, and this was after 9/11, and the editor said, I said, oh, I can go to Borden and do a nice, a spread on our military. And he said, like, we have one plane, two boats, and 20 soldiers. And I said, I don't care about the one plane and two boats, but I'll photograph the 20 soldiers. And I had to push for that. That took about 6 months before I could actually get any interest from the editor. And then it became popular, right? And then,
For which publication was that?
oh, the Toronto Sun.
Toronto
Yeah,
Sun.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, with Toronto, all right. Okay. I moved to Kingston. So, so I cut the cord there. So, but then it became, popular. And then my photography evolved, with Photoshop because my artwork is based on painting, combining it in Photoshop, and then I draw on a screen. But it's basically, it starts off in a photographic medium, so I have my pose, I do my lighting, I photograph in a specific perspective, a specific lens. When I went to Afghanistan, I brought my lights with me, and the guys who like were posing, even with the what is it called? The M777. You know what I mean? Like I had them all. Where there were like a war was going on, and I was like that. What was that? Apocalypse Now, and I'm going. Okay, move over this way. Okay, pull a little. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Good thing I had bookmarks with me of pinup
Tell
girls.
me what. Tell me about when you went to Afghanistan the first time. Was that a little bit scary for you? How did you feel about that? And what was it like when you first got off the plane?
Oh, well, I was on a mission. I was begging, trying. Like it. The battle was trying to get over. Because I was part of the Canadian Forces Artist Program. So when I resuscitated that, but I couldn't get over with that. So then try to do more military artwork and then join the Canadian Forces. I was selected. You have to, like I tried everything to try to get to Afghanistan. And then finally the National Post agreed. So basically they pay my flight and I'd give them the photography for free. I'd say, no, it won't cost you anything. So, I finally, and that was like a headache to try to get over because nobody really knew my work other than a few images that I created that were related to the fallen, which is the one that's recognized, which is the one that's used on the license plate in Alberta. So I had a little bit underneath my belt, so to speak, a few, just, because to be like now, like, your portfolio is basically your passport, right? So I only had so I can't remember. It was brutal. But anyway, I finally got over. So once I got over, it was, I landed, so I wasn't even thinking of the fear factor at the time. And the guys were great, like absolutely. And the best part was, when I was introduced to the troops, it was, this is Silvia Pecota. She's not press. So, and they even gave me, because I was at the PPCLI, there was the press tent, which I don't know, whatever. Okay. And then I went to introduce myself. I had little bookmarks of pinup girls because I was doing Sunshine Girl stuff, and I can't remember whatever I brought, with me for the troops. And, I got invited into stay, and they gave me my own desk in the, what's it called? The QR, like the place where they have supplies.
Yes, that's Q or QMSI.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They gave me a desk in the corner there. And I thought, oh my God, look, I'm taking up space here.
Or
So
CQ.
then,
It was probably just CQ. If it's the
yeah. Yeah, because they
company
had all the supplies
quartermasters.
there. Yeah, yeah. So I made friends with them, and they gave me a desk in the corner. And then what happened? And then I thought, oh my God, I'm interfering. I'll go back to the press tent. And then it was, where were you yesterday? So yeah, so all the press people were like jealous. I like it that way. Okay, sorry, go on. Yeah. So it was, I was able to, it was, I don't know, it was like seamless. Like I just felt completely at home in that milieu. Absolutely.
Did you get outside the wire?
Yeah, yeah, I got outside the wire. Yeah, that
So
was a
tell me
little,
about that.
uh, well, I got outside the wire, um, on patrol, and then we slept out. Actually, the that artwork that I did of the helmet on the ground with the soldiers walking away. Where is it? Oh, this one here. I don't know. This one here. That's that. Those figures and elements were taken from that particular trip when I went outside the wire. And I remember they did this like circle thing with all the vehicles, and then we were inside, and I was and the light was going down.
That's called creating a cordon.
Okay, so I was within that cordon, and I remember then I'm just taking pictures as long as we have like daylight. And then they released some of their kit. I don't know if it was allowed. Well, I guess so, because you have to sleep. And one soldier that I was in their lab just put it on the ground, and I started taking pictures of it. And I go, why am I taking pictures of this? Like, I remember going, there's no special lighting. And then all of a sudden I felt self-conscious. Maybe everyone's going, why is she taking pictures of this? I don't know. That's what went through my mind. So all I did was, let me pretend it's interesting. So I'm on the ground taking pictures of this helmet, with, that's on top of their webbing or whatever. And then I don't know, a year later when I'm trying to create a piece that was dedicated to the fallen, I grabbed that helmet, and it just sort of, like, I do believe that there is intervention from the other side. I do believe in life after death. I do believe in the spirit, and I do believe that I'm inspired, and I am, how would you say, almost channeling concepts that just come to me. They just like come to me, and I'm just putting it together.
Well, that's literally what the word is. That's literally what the word inspired means. I forget exactly the etymology, but inspired comes from a Latin root, and it basically means from God.
Yeah,
or
that
from
would make
spirit.
sense. Spirito ispirazione is Italian. Yeah. So, yeah, coming in. Yeah. So that makes, so I go with gut feelings, and, artwork that I'm going to create. It just comes. And, I felt protected. There were moments on other trips, because there was a total of 5 trips. I went to Afghanistan, and for a few weeks, right? So it's, it wasn't like I was there for months at a time, but enough to try to capture so I could get I wanted to make sure I had the three main regiments. I had the PPCLI, went back for the RCR, and I had to fight to get back to the Van Deus and to get back in to record the Van the Van Deus, and then I was invited. The only trip that was a piece of cake was when the NSC contacted me for something, and then I said, okay, you can use it for a coin. By the way, can I get to Afghanistan? And somehow they pulled the strings, and that's the one time that I didn't have, that was a piece of cake to get into. And once I'm there, I'm taken by the battle group and basically brought outside the wire, and I'm able to get the pictures. And after trip number one, my reputation went ahead of me.
Did you have any hairy, scary moments outside the wire? Did you get shot at?
Yeah, well, not shot at. I was at Massamgar, and there what's it called, incoming explosions. Yeah. So yeah, it was like hit the ground or try to look for I didn't know. Like, I mean, I just saw people over there, and then I managed to get over there. So they were. That's the one time I actually would have actually experienced a form of, I don't know, what would you call it, like a form of incoming attack.
That's
Other
combat.
ones were gut feelings twice.
I would say you're a combat veteran, even
Oh,
though you're a
okay. Well,
civilian.
I mean, I didn't experience it like, and then I mean, I would be like, I would leave a fob, and they'd say, oh, right after I left, there was something, or right before I arrived, like, it was like, um, the, I was protected. I'll tell you that much. But twice I thought I was going to die. And I had tears. Like, it was very emotional. And one time, I was again Massamgar, and I can't remember. I can't remember. There was my company, November Company, and so I was being traded over, to so to speak, and I was supposed to wait, and to getting picked up, and I saw a lot of commotion going on, and I just knew, and it was right before Christmas. I spent Christmas there. So it would have been 2008. It would have been like late December 2008. I'm pretty sure. That was, because I'm trying to remember. Okay, anyway, it was December, and because I brought over torone, which is a Christmas candy, right? And I thought, oh, okay, I have this, torone that I can celebrate when Christmas comes in a few days with the troops, right? And I, uh, it was packaged and kept there. I went back to wherever we were sleeping, those sea can thing, and I grabbed a piece, and I just grabbed a piece, because I felt like, and then somebody told me that, and I didn't know this, and I don't even know why I did that, but then somebody told me that in World War One, the soldiers would keep maple syrup candy inside their pockets, and they would, and this is what I didn't even tell my story. I just heard the story, and I'm imagining, so when there was like a real battle to go over, that's when they would take that candy, and I just thought, wow, that's kind of what I did at that moment. Turned out though that I never did get picked up because a soldier was killed that day, that morning. So that gut feeling that there was something going on was a sense that I actually picked up. And then a second time we were out.
About how long you're in Afghanistan 5 times? About how long was it? Like the same amount of time each time? Like how
Well,
long were you
no,
over there in total?
yeah, one was about 3 weeks, and usually was like a couple weeks. Yeah, so I'd have a couple weeks. So I had to like jump in and make friends, and
Hmm.
drive them crazy because I would be getting them to pose. right? Like I had my lights with me, and camera equipment, and later they knew who I was, but at the beginning I could imagine, oh no, not another civvy pain in the ass type of thing, right? But but I always brought stuff with me. Once I even brought a case of salami.
So there are three Reg Force regiments
Yeah,
in Canada, and you've spent time with all three: the PPCLI, RCR, and the Vandus.
yeah.
So we all do the same job, but there's a different flavor within each regiment. There's a different culture. Uh, did you notice a difference in culture? Like, what was the same and what was different about the three regiments?
Um, well, as we know, uh, the RCR are a little bit more disciplined, you know what I mean? Whereas the PPCLI would be more of the cowboys, as I was told. But
Yeah,
where I
that's exactly right.
really, yeah, like I mean, I'm actually more RCR, like never pass a fault, like that's my motto in life. So I guess I would relate to the RCR more than anyone. But um, maybe because of my Italian heritage, right? I like the Van Deus were great. Swear all the time. There was no issues with sexual, I would be joining in those jokes, you know what I mean? Like, and it was like more relaxed in that sense. Whereas, oh, when I arrived, the first time, because I also made that print. I should have brought, the girl with the flag, the Canadian flag.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway,
Yeah.
it was pro patriot. I did that for the I did that one for the soldiers. That was the first one. Hold on, I know exactly where it is. Hang on,
For
because
our audio audience, Silvia is going to get the picture.
oh my goodness, where is it? Here it is. Found it. I should have been prepared and put
It's
this
okay.
image here.
Okay,
Is that
beautiful.
identifiable to you?
I
Okay,
haven't
it
seen it
was
yet.
at the
Yeah.
time. So what I did was, somebody I know said, "Oh, why don't you make um, a pinup thing for the troops?" And then I did this, which created a bit of scandal at the time. I don't even know why, but anyway,
Who
it's an
got upset about
allegory.
that?
Yeah, it's an allegory. And then the printer made, I think, 10,000 of them, and they were all gone. Like the Sun papers, Calgary, whatever, the Sun papers across Canada would distribute, and you could get a maximum of two. And then there was an address on the back to any soldier, airman, whatever, sailor. And there was three addresses: Afghanistan, Bosnia, and the Golden Heights. And you would sign off. So this became very popular, and that was my ticket in. Actually, I just remember that's how I got in with the PPSA on my first trip. So I don't even remember what we were talking about. What was your question? Tangent's my middle name.
Well, originally it was the similarities between the three regiments and the differences, and basically you nailed that. The PPCLI are often considered the cowboys,
Yeah,
which is true, and the RCR are more strict and a little bit more disciplined. I mean, patricians are disciplined, but we can color outside the lines,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the RCR will not color outside the
But
lines.
they will paint rocks.
They will paint rocks. We don't do that. And as a punishment, they paint rocks, which is pretty funny. I've never seen a painted rock, but it's a different flavor. But as a woman in a war zone, surrounded by some hardcore men, how were you treated?
Oh, it was like I felt absolutely protected. Like I was there on my mission. They were great. Absolutely. It was, like I said, it was like seamless. Like I just, you know what, they were, um, I'd go back with our troops. If you offered me, and I always say that, if you would have offered me, um, I don't know, the top 10-star, all inclusive anywhere in the world, I would still have gone to Afghanistan. And I remember,
Why? What is it? Is it just how? What is it about that? Like, why is that? Is it how you were treated? Is it the like? What is it? How are you able to explain why that is? Why you would go back?
because I love our troops. Like that would be I would go on I would, yeah, I went on my dime, quite, because I'd be kicked off of flights, whatever, except for that one time, yeah, absolutely. I felt it was my duty to record and create a body of work that represents our military, our soldiers for that mission. It was my purpose. I just had to. And, yeah, there's no, oh, here's a funny story. So I, finally get over with the Van Duys, and now I'm going to create artwork. So the DCO, his, great guy, Richard Moffat. So I get in, and and I end up doing the artwork called Under Fire. So prior to going into this meeting, I heard that it's really dangerous out there, and they're not letting people out, or civilians out there, or press. Like it was, and I'm thinking, fuck, I got come all this way to stay in CAF, right? So I was already prepared to know that I had to fight my way to get outside the wire, because that's where you'll capture the essence of of the soldier, not in CAF, for what I wanted to represent. So I sit down meeting, and he goes, Miss Pecota, we would like, and he's starting to describe like Under Fire. And so I said,
That's a pretty good French accent you got there.
oh, okay, it's probably French, not Quebecois. But anyway, so he goes, Miss Pecota, I go, Silvia. And he goes, Silvia, we have to, we want Under Fire and whatever he's describing. And I go, well, I have to go outside the wire. He goes, you want to go outside the wire? And I said, well, if I wanted a fucking vacation, I'd be in Mexico right now. And he leans back, he goes, you want to go outside the wire? What I do for a woman. And then I found out they actually, because I wasn't paid to go over, they had a historian for the Van Duys that came over, and he was afraid to go outside the wire. And I was told this like later. I'm going, I have to go outside. Anyway, I got outside the wire.
Well, it's that's awesome and good for you, and it shows definite courage. There's a lot of people that they won't. I lived outside the wire for my entire tour in Croatia back in '94.
Oh wow!
And I didn't spend much inside the wire at all. I was all exposed, and there is something about it. It's actually scarier if you don't do that. If you don't confront it. Mm. The people that actually lost their mind was during the tour were the cooks, because they would only imagine what was happening outside the wire. They'd see us go, they'd see us come back, at the end of the day after we do our patrols or whatever work we were doing out there. And there was a couple of call outs, we got QRF'd a couple of times and running towards the bullets. And when we come back, we know what happened because we did that. But the cooks who never left the wire, they always had to wonder. They had to wonder, and their imagination would run wild. And two of them went home early because they would have a complete meltdown and start throwing knives in the kitchen and having a fit. Wow. And this is bullshit. And home they go. But it was something. But in my mind, that was why, because they didn't have the opportunity to confront what was going on out there. And it's until you confront it that you can sort of deal with it. So that's an experience that you've had that very, very few human beings ever have. Like, you've actually seen what war looks like. And that's very, very different inside the wire and outside the wire. And most people have never been even inside the wire. They've never been anywhere near something like that. So Do you feel that that has changed who you are?
Well, the whole experience, absolutely. Every experience will change you. You know, uh, from going to the orphanages, because I went as part of the Canadian Forces Arts program. I was actually able to go to Haiti through the program, and
Oof.
you saw the work that was, that our soldiers were doing there. Well, I didn't see it, but I knew of it. I mean, it was, I didn't, but also behind the scenes and the humanitarian work, and I remember this one sergeant, he was collecting for the orphanages, and then they would go and then just seeing the poverty, seeing how women are treated in Afghanistan, so it goes even beyond what our soldiers are doing. You're actually witnessing, you know, humanitarian catastrophe, right? So when I hear all these um, cultural defenses for, I can get pretty upset over the friggin' burqa concept. Oh yeah, it's freedom. Oh no, it's not, or whatever. And I saw how the suffering that's going on, and you, in order to understand, you need to like at least actually see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, they like the troops put put it all their stuff. Like I don't remember 120 pounds, whatever, and just here try this all on. And I remember trying, and I'm thinking this is what they have to like walk through in the heat. There was cold as well, but I mean in the I experienced May, which was hot, so I can only imagine what June and July would have been, and you're carrying 100 pounds on top of everything else. So those are like, and not complaining. Well, there's that complaining when you're in the lab. Like about something, whatever it is, right? There's always something, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're still like, you're still marching forward, because, but basically not complaining.
Well, what I found when I was on my tour is that the harder the work, the less the complaining, because there's no time and and
Yeah.
there's no energy to complain.
Yeah.
So the more brutal the schedule and the taskings, the less complaining there was. Near the end of the tour, when everything was built, all the OPs were up and running, and we had a lot of time on our hands. That's when the complaining started.
But it's more of, I can't even think. I'm trying to think of something that there was complaining about, I mean, I can't even think of something. But I mean, I would be complaining because they would confiscate my pinup bookmark that I was giving to the troops or whatever, right? So to try to smuggle them out. So, but that was my ticket in too. I would go into the labs and I made pocket calendars, right? That would fold, and then you could put them in your pocket. And of course, there were pinups. You know what I mean? Like yeah. So I would get reprimanded for that. But
Are you still friends today with any of the soldiers that you met?
oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. And Facebook is one way of, like, social media
Mm.
is one way of keeping in contact. But yeah, I have and I even and I and there's even one Tyler Crooks, who was the driver in the vehicle, and he was killed on his mission. And that's an actual, like, he was the driver, and it would have been probably in December, um, and we went out for a few days. That's the one trip I went on that I really felt that, like, it, like, when I felt it waiting, I had tears that were starting to form, and I was like so embarrassed. I just knew, and I was I go, I don't want anyone to see me crying, and I had to like compose myself. I went back, grabbed that piece of candy, and went back to wait. And then I found out what had happened. But I just, you just know. Anyway, with Tyler, he was a driver, and I know that he was wanting to be a hockey player. Like with the NHL, and his friends were with the NHL. And I remember talking to him because we were outside the wire for a few nights, and And I mean, what is it called? Like when you're outside the fob too, like you're sleeping under on the rocks, basically.
I just want to translate for our non-indoctrinated audience. A fob is a forward operating base, so it's not the main base in Afghanistan. I was never in Afghanistan, but the CAF was the major the Kandahar airfield, and fobs are tiny or smaller little operation bases that are usually quite dangerous to get to and quite dangerous to be at. So the fobs are where the action was mostly.
And then we go out on patrol. I would go out with them on patrol, and sometimes you'd be sleeping in. They do that. What did you call it? Where they do a circle around just protection.
Cordon.
Yeah, and then
all around a fence or a cordon. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then you'd be sleeping out in the open, basically, right? So but yeah, so I got to know Tyler Crooks, and then he I remember coming up. I did end of tour gifts, and I remember working on them and coming up and then seeing it on the TV that he was killed. So it was when it's always terrible to hear, but when it's somebody you got to know, it's the impact is stronger. That is really,
because you can understand it more, you can relate to it more. It's not just a story on the news.
it's not just a story, and it's somebody that you know, that you talk to. And the I don't know if you want me to tell you this, if I can make it quick or whatever. I came back and I was working on the end of tour gift. It was my first one. There was a medallion in the center that I sculpted, and then I created figures that represent the different battle group. So you have artillery, you have engineers, you have infantry, you have medics, and whatever. So I try to incorporate all of those into a composition. And then there was a medallion in the center, and I was working on this, and I was trying to get things done, and people were like, I'm RCR, like, get it done freaking properly. Okay, whatever. So I remember in traffic, okay, I know I'm on the 401, and I'm going, maybe it's a sign. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this because there's too many blocks and incompetence and whatever it is. And I'm sitting there, and then I hear the honking, and I look and I see a pickup truck, and this young man, I have no idea who he is. Silvia. So I pretend I know who he is. I go, hi. And I'm going, who is this guy? Whatever it is, right? And then he says, Silvia, because the window goes down, and he says, and it would have been winter, so it would have been maybe February or something like that. And he goes, I was on Coach's Corner. So then I knew who it was. It was Tyler Crooks. Because what happened is I brought a life-size cutout of Don Cherry with me, and I went to all the FOBs, forward operating bases, right? And I took pictures. I was like morale, okay? So I took pictures of the engineers, and I put a book together for Don, right? And everyone was signing it. So I had Don with the engineers, and like they had fun. And then I had the girl, and we called it like, not Charlie's Angels, whatever it was, like the FOB, like Spermangar Angels. I can't remember which one, right? And whatever. I just brought it everywhere, driving everybody crazy. And, they loved it because it was, they put the helmet on him and all this other stuff. So I put it all together. And so what I did for one of the pictures, because Don is like amazing, I would try to see if I could get something for Don to put on TV. Like I'd have to meet up with him for something, and I would say, "Oh, Don, is it okay? I'm going to get a call from Afghanistan, right? Because I prearranged it, right?" and so then it would be on my cell phone, and then the guys would get to talk to Don Cherry. So anyway, I'm going over, bring this life-size cutout. And so I took a picture of this life-size cutout with the TV on, and Tyler and a bunch of the guys watching him live, right? So Don put it on Coach's Corner. And that's
Perfect.
when I knew that when I was in the pickup truck that Tyler goes, I was on Coach's Corner, and we were screaming. I just got off the phone with my girlfriend saying, I got to get a hold of Silvia. And I look over, and there you are. I mean, this sounds like friggin' incredible. Like you wouldn't believe it in a movie, right? So, but anyway, and there it was. We were like stuck in traffic. And so he pulled over, and then I gave him progress of what was happening with the artwork. And then a couple months later, he was the tragedy happened. Him and I think, and there was two that were killed that day on that mission. It was just, but and then of course Don mentioned it, and it was yeah.
How
So
did you first meet Don Cherry?
boxing match. Because Don loved boxing, and I was really involved with the boxing community, taking pictures of all these boxers, portraits. Not, I'm not good at action shots. I did action shots, but so I was doing portrait work, and then I would go to the boxing fight. And here's the other thing, like you just said, why am I not afraid? And I was wondering, I don't even like boxing. I'm like looking at, I go, what is it in my past life that I'm like associated with all these boxes? They make beautiful subjects, like beautiful. When I would be at the ring side and I'm looking through the camera, you're detached. Like I don't feel, but if I'm sitting in the stands and I know who the boxer is and I see the punch, the left hook hitting a boxer that I know, I will feel that pain. Through the camera lens, it's in a different zone, a different space. And maybe that's also why I was able to have attain certain, I don't even know if it's foolhardy courage, right? Because I felt myself separated from what was going on. But I'm also realistic, because before I go over, I'd say, okay, if something happens other than my mind and my eyes, I want my hands. Like, what's the first? It's kind of macabre, right? Like, well, if something had to go missing, what would I, choose? What body part? So I'm always grateful I still have even the hands are in pain, I still have them.
Now, your work with the military has gone beyond memorializing and capturing with artwork. You have a new project that you're on right now, or is coming up for the Poppy Fund.
Oh, well, I used to do calendars, like the large ones, which are not as popular anymore. So I just have smaller calendars. And that's going to be with the Poppy Fund. And it's based on the mural that I did in Wyerton. So now, like, so the funds, part of the funds are going to go to the Wyerton, Legion, and I will post it on Facebook like next week. But what I am also, yeah. So, and also because there are some people, I mean, 100 calendars, maybe so I just have it, a small print run and make that available for the people that are usually asking for calendars every year. And this theme will be based on the Wyerton mural that that was dedicated in May. But other than that, I'm working on a bronze sculpture for the memorial in Kingston that will be unveiled in May.
Amazing. There's a lot of different ways to purchase your artwork, like different types of art that you have. So what's your website again?
Oh, in my name. So that's easy. So www. And then all one word, silviapecota.com.
silviapecota.com. Now on there, so there's license plates, medallions. What else is on there?
Oh, the body of work related a lot. I stopped counting. 50, 60, 70 compositions related to the Afghan mission, plus historical. I always love historical themes. Yeah, the majority of my artwork online is all military related, Canadian military related.
Do you have works for peacekeepers as well?
One, because it was the anniversary. So yeah, and I have included peacekeepers, for example, in the Wyerton, and actually I should start posting. I have to catch up. I have a series of individual portraits, so I have a peacekeeper for that represents. I do it like a parchment portrait type of thing, and I've started the series, and maybe one day it could become something. Right from 1812 to like present day.
Are you familiar with Medak Pocket?
Who?
I guess not.
Meat?
So the Battle of Medak Pocket happened in
Oh, oh,
1993 in
okay, got
Croatia.
it. The one in Bosnia,
Croatia.
Croatia. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I heard about that one. Yeah. Oh, I should
Well,
create something for that, eh?
it might be interesting. It was the biggest battle since Korea when
Oh,
that happened.
really?
It was a multi-day battle with the Second Battalion PPCLI augmented by the Calgary Highlanders, and they dug in where two other countries ran away. They said, "I'm out of here." And so other countries ran away. The Canadians dug in for the first time since Korea. They actually dug defensive trenches and they fought for like 3, 4 days, something like that, to try to defend a village because it was a genocide that was going on.
Yeah.
So they fought back the Croats to keep them from slaughtering a Serb village, which wasn't completely successful, unfortunately. But the Canadians didn't run; they dug in,
Mm,
and until the Croats backed off and retreated. And the official numbers, I think, were like 27 dead Croats, but it's more like 200 or 300 because I know one guy that mowed down 50 or 60 all by himself.
wow.
And so, yeah, it was a major battle, and then it was buried by the Canadian government. They completely pretended that it didn't happen, and that's an absolute shame because it's one of the
Yeah.
proudest moments in modern Canadian history because of what we did. Other countries were running away while we were digging in and fighting and trying to stop a genocide. And the Canadian government pretended it didn't happen, which
Yeah.
was a source of moral injury for so
Yeah.
many of the people that were there. And I was there 1 year later. And even though I was on the same ground a year later in the same place, we barely knew anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, eh? Well, you're going to send me information, and I got a lot on my plate till May, but it has been mentioned to me before, and I'm pretty sure there's a book out there too that I saw that I need to.
There's a few. The one to read is The Ghosts of Medak Pocket by Carol
Okay,
Off. Yeah.
Carol. Oh, okay.
Oh, you know Carol Off?
No, I don't know her, but I hear her on the radio. I've heard her on the radio.
Yeah. It's one that I find them difficult to read,
Well,
but
yeah,
yeah, I find it difficult. But it's definitely one that I've got to get read. And there's a few different books from that time. Sandra Perron, who I'm going to have on the show soon. She was the first female officer in the infantry. She was with the Van Dews, and she wrote a book about her time in Croatia and Bosnia.
yeah. I tried to get over. I was, and I couldn't get over. I didn't have the connections that I eventually was able to nurture. But even with the Toronto Sun, I tried my best to try to get over to Bosnia, and unfortunately, I haven't. I would have a source. I would have been told things, and then I would have been able to try to capture poses. You've got the uniform, you've got the equipment, you've got the terrain. Like I capture all the elements, and then I can put them together, and that's how I mesh everything. But it has been mentioned to me before, and also to create artwork, and it was on the back burner, and then I don't know, everything else comes into play. But that's where my purpose is. In terms of my profession, is to be able to record, even always to show the beauty, to show the strength, to show the courage, even as a photographer, even as lame as a sunshine boy, like boxer that was going to go and fight the following week. There's a sense of pride. So the the responsibility I feel of journalists, okay, and artists is to be able to record, represent, and honor um, you know, the efforts of, in this case would be our troops, but it, almost in any profession. So that's what my aim. I don't even know if what I just said made sense, but I'm a little bit all over the place. But yeah, that's why I do what I do.
Well, and I appreciate it. There's, I think it's becoming less and less common that people even think about Remembrance Day or put any weight towards it. You know, there's an entire month for other causes,
Yeah.
but for the people that put their life on the line for the benefit of others, of strangers that they'll never meet.
Yeah.
And they get one day. And it wasn't even a stat holiday until somewhat recently. You know, I remember going to work and telling the boss, just so you know, stat or no, I will not be here on November 11th. And if you're going to fire me over it, fine. But I won't be here. And yeah, Silvia.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
To see her artwork, silviapecota.com. Have a look. The custom license plates, the portraits, the medallions, there's so much on there, and go get a piece of history for yourself at silviapecota.com. Thank you, all you beautiful souls, for joining me for another edition of Operation Tango Romeo, the Trauma Recovery Podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. Take care. Silvia, stay on the line.